Hi, my name is McCormick, and this is my Instructional Materials and Instructional Technology Class 626. A little bit about myself. I graduated from Grand Valley in 2011 with a degree in Spanish, and this is my third year teaching. It's my second year at my current placement, which is Belvedere High School in Belvedere, Illinois. I'm currently working and wrapping up my Master's in Educational Technology degree, so this will be the last presentation of my graduate degree. I use four major forms of technology in this plan. The first one is the Realidades textbook online website. It's our textbook series that we use for our classes, and it accompanies the book with an online site. And I'll kind of go in depth with what's offered in the next slide. I also use Google Docs for some record keeping things, studyspanish.com, kia.com. Both of those are different websites that allow me to use and practice Spanish and then kind of assess the students. And these were all accessed during class time in the computer lab for my class. The Realidades online information and website that goes along with the book offers a lot for each different chapter. The chapters are broken down, and in each chapter on the website, students can be exposed to basic vocab. They can look at practice activities for the grammar covered in that section. They can get explanations on the grammar, and then finally there's a practice chapter test in each segment of the online portion. Using the technology I just explained, what I did is created a unit for the final for Spanish 2, and what that consists of is 6 half chapters covering chapters 1A through 3B. 6 days were estimated for the duration of the unit, with 4 days in the lab and 2 days of in-class instruction. To start the unit, students will complete the 6 test prep assessments using the Realidades website, and then they're going to use the Google Docs to record their scores for each of those tests. Each class will have their own document for their scores, and these will use the student ID numbers for confidentiality. Each assessment consists of 20 questions, and they give the students immediate feedback for the areas they're struggling in the chapter. After they record their scores, I can use that data to direct the student participation in the textbook resources through the Realidades website. And then also I can direct them to external activities using the KIA website and the studyspanish.com. After we're done in the lab and I get that feedback, I can kind of guide the review for the semester when we have our time in the class together. At the time of this project, I hadn't had the opportunity with my Spanish 2 students to run the final exam unit, so what I did is conducted a mini trial with my Spanish 1 class. Instead of a full review of the entire semester's worth of chapters, we chose their one chapter that they were going to be tested on coming up. What I noticed is that a lot of my students benefited from moving at their own pace, so they could really cover the areas that they were struggling with, and also if they mastered an area quickly, they were able to move on and they weren't held back. Also, I found that they were willing to report their actual scores because I could see on the computers kind of what they were scoring, and then on the Google Doc that matched it. I think that confidentiality aspect of that made them feel comfortable enough to do that. I also noticed that many students took advantage of the time in class and the resources that were given to them through the book website and the external websites. I noticed that several students also told me the next days in class after the unit was over that they were using those resources at home to prepare for the upcoming chapter test. In terms of the overall unit being successful, based on the Spanish 1 results, the technology did serve its purpose. This was the first time I ran a unit like that. I think the extra practice time and the individualized practice really kind of helped them. The test scores for this particular unit were 4% above the typical class average for that class. I'm looking forward to see how the final exam results compare after I work with Spanish 2 when I compare them to last year's Spanish 2 final grades, having not used this unit or this technology to prepare the students. If the Spanish 2 unit is as successful as the Spanish 1 practice was, I'd like to extend this to the second semester final. So we would redo the same process, only we would do it for the chapters covered in the second semester. What I would do also is create reviews for each chapter, so instead of one large review at the end, we would have smaller reviews leading up to chapter tests and then do a final review once we get towards the semester exam. To really make sure that it's a successful plan, I would keep tracking and comparing scores from the years that I do it and the years that I don't, and then I would share my unit and the results from the unit with my department so they could start doing it in their classes if it is successful. Also, as as I keep using this in the future, I would edit and enhance the list of additional activities. Right now, I have studyspanish.com and Kia, and I'd like to add to that as I kind of explore and find more activities that are beneficial to my students. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you for listening, and have a good rest of the semester.